Say it now. Say the obvious prediction right now.
The Stars are going to win the Stanley Cup.
Hey guys, welcome back to Sarcastic Remarks alongside James, my brother. My name is Ryan Chambers. We are the official Dallas Stars podcast of everything here. The Dallas Stars win by a final score of 4-1 over the Colorado Avalanche here this evening. The score is not indicative of how the play went here tonight, though, James, but still exciting. The Stars take a 2-1 series lead over these Colorado Avalanche. They go into Denver, arguably one of the hardest places to play on top of T-Mobile Arena. And they get the win tonight in a style of play that they showed that they could do in the first round series, James. But let me get your thoughts just overall. What's the first thing you think about with this game?
Yeah, well, you already said it. It was they played the way they did in the first round in that game. It was great. It was the Avs were still getting their chances, but they were keeping them out of the slot area for the most part. If they were getting chances there, they were tips, and they weren't giving them rebound chances either. They were boxing out, clearing rebounds, and just rinse and repeat over and over and over again for the whole game.
That was the most impressive thing for the Dallas Stars tonight, and it was very apparent that that was how they were going to be approaching the game in this particular game, because the way they played here and the way they played in game 2 against the Avs at home is extremely, extremely different. Stars go in as the best road team from the regular season, Avalanche the best home team, and the Stars prevail in that regard. So there's lots of different things we could jump down here tonight, James, but let's just talk about that style one more time. That's arguably the biggest thing here tonight. They are able to lean upon their defensive game, which we didn't see a ton of in the regular season. We started seeing more of it towards the end of the season, and then we saw a lot of it against the Vegas Golden Knights, because that was the only way that the Stars were going to be able to out Vegas the Vegas Golden Knights, just play the same style that they were playing. They outdid them. They won that series. And now Colorado is kind of taking a little bit of medicine when it comes to this and seeing how they played against the Vegas Golden Knights. And they're playing excellent right now. And you can't argue with the style when you get the result that you want.
Yeah, and some of the commentators said it in the third period. There's just no space for the Avalanche to get through that neutral zone. I mean, when they even late into the game when they pulled the goaltender, it was already over. They couldn't make a pass. They weren't connecting on anything. It was all getting broken up. Stars were in every lane, every shot lane, every passing lane. There was no space at all. It's suffocating.
And honestly, the way that they played tonight, I didn't like. But again, I can't argue with the results, right? They won the game. They got exactly what they wanted. They pretty much stifled the offense of the Colorado Avalanche. And one of the things I did want to talk about, slightly moving on from that topic, is when you watch this game, James, it really felt like the only lines that were getting into the Stars zone and at least getting something out of it were those top two lines for the Colorado Avalanche.
Really?
It was, but it
You
was
don't say.
oh, shut up, James. It was the McKinnon line, and then it was the Val Nichushkin line. Those two lines, and then every once in a while they'd mix it up, and Val would be up on the top line, and Lehkonen would come back down. But that's something that Colorado has had to rely on so much, is especially those top two guys with McKinnon and Rantanen. And yeah, Rantanen gets a goal here tonight, but that was basically just like a turd dropped right behind Otter. And I mean, I don't blame him
also
on that at all.
It was a heroic play from Nathan McKinnon too. We make a tiny gap mistake in our defense, and McKinnon takes it instantly, runs with it, skates through all of the Dallas defenders, and makes a great move to the front of the net. And that's how that happens. Sometimes you just throw it on net, it goes behind him. Sometimes that's why Rantanen's sitting there. He knows that happens. He plays with this dude all the time. It's gonna happen. So and that's their only goal of the game. And it took a absolutely, like, it was a great play from McKinnon. He had to do that for them to be able to get a goal. And that's what the whole thing came down to after the game ended. I was like, the only way they scored was McKinnon dancing through 4 Stars players.
And that's the only goal they got all night. So, I mean, the Stars stifled the offense of the Colorado Avalanche. And now they did it a little bit to Nathan McKinnon, but the one player that they talked about a lot here tonight that got really stifled is Cale Makar. Cale Makar has been absolutely non-existent in the last 2 games. He had 3 points in the first game, I think, or 4, something like that.
Yeah,
and
3 in the first game.
And then since then, they have absolutely shut him down. And you know, that's something now that I'm kind of coming to a revelation here talking about this, but I don't like the way that the Stars played tonight. I would have liked to see a little bit more shots on net and stuff like that. But at the same time, that argument of good teams always find a way to win and championship teams are built on defense. This is something that the Stars have shown. They can play the run and gun style. They tried to do that a little bit in game 2, got away with it and got 4 goals off of it. And then their defense wasn't as great. Here tonight, they play a completely different style. They're focusing mostly on their defense. They bend, but don't break very much. And then when they got their opportunities, they took advantage of them. So I'm not going to say that I don't like it because they got the results, but it's just, you just got to do what you got to do to win.
This is what the team needs to do against teams that have these just ridiculous players. I mean, McKinnon is an absolutely insane player. No one's going to argue that. But if you shut down McKinnon and the top line, what does their team have? And when it boils down to it, they don't have as much as they think they do. They really don't. They only get no goals from their depth tonight. They got 2 last night. And other than that, I mean, I'm not sweating buckets or anything. The Stars pretty much take care of business when it comes to their bottom lines. Their third and fourth line didn't look dangerous tonight at all. I don't remember a great chance that they had on us. And really the big thing, and that has been really important after game 1, was the penalty kill tonight too. I mean, taking 3 penalties in the first period too, and all of them were decently good penalty kills, and just it was great goaltending by Otter too. And that's another key to beating great players. You have to have your goaltender stop the ones that are like kind of iffy, because if you give up one of those iffy ones, the great player is going to get one, like he did tonight. I mean, Rantanen technically got the goal, but that was McKinnon's goal. Let's be honest. You got to stop the easy ones because the hard ones are going to go in.
One of the interesting things I wanted to move on to about tonight, James, what is the difference between the goaltending between the Avalanche and the Stars? I honestly didn't think that Georgiev had a bad game. I thought he had a pretty decent game. And the thing with him, though, compared to Otter, is that I think Otter's getting a lot of help from his team defense overall. And he's not the thing that Georgiev is not getting is constant barrage of shots. I don't want to say that Otter was overtaxed tonight, but he was definitely overtaxed in the first period. I mean, the Avalanche dominated that period.
He saved the first period.
He made some really big saves in the first period. He absolutely did. But in the second and the third, they had their opportunities. The Avalanche did, but it was nothing like any of the chances they had in the first period.
And it was almost never a second chance either. Those rebound chances weren't there.
I mean, and then the other thing that's kind of stifling, that's kind of strange, is when you look at the shots on goal, you can kind of look at how the play went in tonight's game. Sometimes shots on goal are indicative of how the play goes, and sometimes it's not. In the first period, 11-5 in favor of the Avs. Absolutely, that checks out from an eye standpoint. 11-8 in the second period. So Dallas starting to push back a little bit. They got their opportunities there as well. And then in the third period, I honestly expected a little bit more of a push out of the Avs, at least in the shots on goal department. I expected a barrage of shots. But when you look at the total in the third period, 10-7 in favor of Dallas. And we have always said this about when they play this style. Sorry, James, is that when you have this style, if you're going to play this way, you better be ready to go into the third period and at least get some forechecking going, because you cannot sit there and turtle and play bonus hockey in your own end in the third period. They didn't do that, which is fantastic. And they were able to kind of clamp it down and make sure this game was out of reach for them.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it last game. You asked the question, how do the Stars hold on to a lead in the third period? And I said forechecking. You got to keep forechecking. You don't have to go in and take every rush chance and be risky and get the goals, but you can't stop forechecking. Giving this team the neutral zone entry for free is a death sentence. And that's really, in the third period, what the Stars did best. It was clogging the neutral zone. They just couldn't make it through the neutral zone and kept getting the puck back, and we'd dump it back in. Let them mess up again and again and again. And that burned probably the last 9 minutes of the game, was doing that exact thing. The Avs have the puck in their defensive zone, try to pass it through the neutral zone, gets turned over, and the Stars dump it back in.
So kind of back to goaltending a little bit. I really didn't think that Georgiev had a bad game, and his save percentage, 905. That's still pretty good. And I don't think that's bad at all. But when you have these series, your goaltending has to be better than the other teams. And when you look at Otter's save percentage tonight, 966. And there were multiple quality scoring chances in the first period, especially. There's 3 off the top of my head that I can think of that he was just outstanding on. And he has proven in the last 2 games, especially, that he is the better goaltender over Alexander Georgiev.
Yeah, and like you said, it's Otter being good, but it's also his defense coming back and helping him. The first period, he had that shot on the power play leak through him a bit, and both defenders come back and stop it from rolling over the line. And neither of them could see the puck rolling over the line yet. They both did it. It's overall great defensive team play and Otter being good. Both of those things together is why the Avalanche are only able to get 1 goal tonight.
One of the players we need to kind of discuss again, James, is Chris Tanev in particular. He was excellent again tonight, along with the other top 5 guys. But we got to pull out specifically the goal that Sagan scored. He was the catalyst in getting that started. Perfect pass up the middle to, I believe it was Dodonov it was Steele. Yep. It was Steele. A really good pass to Steele there. Steele gives it off to Dodonov. And again, great perfect pass by Dodonov to Sagan there, deposits it into the back of the net. And what he did on that particular play ended up being the difference in the game tonight. And we talk about all of these things and the fact that the inches and the centimeters and the millimeters matter when it comes to playoff hockey. And in that one play that Tanev made, it was a perfect play. That's the difference in the game right there.
Yeah.
That's all it was. One simple little play getting out of his own zone.
And I think the big thing why we're talking about Tanev so much is because we know what to expect from the people who we have. We know Miro's going to be good. We know Harley's going to be good. Lindell, Suter, they've all been great. Tanev is probably the best pickup we could have ever asked for. He is as good as Lindell is, and it's just a complete revelation to watch him play on the ice alongside him most of the time.
Lots of people talking about Chris Tanev over in the chat over there. Absolutely. And Bam Mod over here. I'm so glad you guys bring up Tanev. The broadcast made it sound like we were lucky to even be playing. And then Spencer Tutt, friend of mine, Tanev was the best pickup late in the season. And they said that before the game even started. They were talking about that in the pregame on TNT and the fact that he was a huge pickup. He had go ahead.
He's been one of the best defensemen in the entirety of the playoffs. Offensively, obviously not, because Cale Makar still has like 12 points, even though he hasn't scored the last 2 games, which is insane. 12 points in 6 games, by the way. But he just doesn't get scored on hardly ever, and he's almost always making the right decision, and he's making tons of blocks. He leads the team in blocks tonight. He's 5 blocks. He's hitting people big. He has 4 hits tonight as well. That's 1 away from the team lead. He's doing everything you would want out of someone in the playoffs, except for the goal scoring. And we have other players who do that. So he doesn't have to. So everything that he can do shines.
That was the one thing that we've talked about for so long before the trade deadline, and the fact that we needed somebody there that could fulfill a defensive role in the top 4. Because Hakanpää was doing the best that he absolutely could, but he was playing outside of where he should be playing. He should be playing on. He is absolutely a very good defenseman, but he's better suited for a bottom pairing role. Hakanpää is, and Tanev comes in, lights the world on fire for the Stars. The beginning a little iffy, but that's to be expected. He's playing a new system. And he just been getting better and better and better and better for months now. Like he is playing the best hockey we have seen him play, and it's at the exact right time. So I know that the sport now has progressed to more offense and skillful players and stuff like that. Yes, and that should be the way that it goes, because that makes the game more interesting and it brings more casual fans into the sport. But when you see such a ridiculous elite status player like Chris Tanev, when it comes especially to the defensive side, you have to admit that, and you have to recognize that. So he continues to be really good, and arguably one of the Stars' best defensemen. So
yeah, I don't even know if that's arguing. He's playing against the top players too. I mean, he did it in the first round. He's doing it again in the second round, and he's just consistently this good and just does everything.
All right, moving on from that for just a split second. This is something they talked about in the pregame as well, and they were very disappointed, I could imagine, and the lack of it. They built up the storyline a lot on Jamie Benn and the expectation that Colorado was going to come out and maybe give him a little bit. And they were talking about maybe Trennan or Manson stepping up in front of Jamie Benn and I don't know, trying to set a message to him. We didn't really see that very much. And
really
I was kind of like,
Jamie Benn around.
Well, the other thing I thought was, okay, guys, this is the playoffs. Yes, if it was a dirty hit and they thought it was a dirty hit, okay, fine, it's in the past. But you don't want to pull something up like that. And I'm talking from Colorado's standpoint, you don't want to make that
That's a
a
distraction
target
for them.
for you. That's a better word. Thank you, James. It's a distraction for them. So there might have been like a couple of hits against him during the game or whatever, and here it goes. There was nothing there tonight. So I just thought it was interesting that the TNT broadcast focused in on that storyline, that non-existent storyline, and it wasn't there at all. Like nothing. Like even the Avalanche, nothing from them.
Yeah, it's honestly, I like it from Ben too. After doing a hit like that, it's big. It's not against the rules. You could maybe say it's blindside and player wasn't ready for it, sure, but that doesn't make it an illegal hit. It's nice for him to kind of take it was a slight step back from the aggression that it was in game one. He still had big hits in this game, but I mean, you could tell he was a little back, and that's good because that shows he has full control over the aggression that he's using. And really, this is also a game where if they're going to come and get him, the likelihood of them getting a penalty because of that is pretty high. And that just plays into his hand even more.
Right. This was another thing I wanted to talk about that the Stars did really well in the style that they played. Ball Arena actually stopped booing him as the game went on in the third, Harrison says. And that is a extremely good point. And when you are able to take a lead early in a game and pull the crowd out of it, I mean, they were non-existent in the third period.
One goal is really hard as a fan to stay in a game. I mean, that is essentially exactly what you want from a road game. You let the other team score once and you led or were tied the entire time. You never trailed that game, not once. And it was obvious, especially with how loud the crowd was in the third period, or I should say how quiet they were in the third period. It just, they had nothing to cheer for. They couldn't get into the offensive zone for a large majority of the third period too. And that's something that the Avs did great in the first two games. Third period, they just lit us up like crazy. And it just wasn't the case in this one. And it's exactly what the Stars needed.
And this is a crazy thing to kind of think about, James, but I knew the way they were playing. Oh, well, before I get out to that, Amato, they couldn't decide if they wanted to boo Jamie or Duchesne. Yeah, that was something I noticed too. I fully expected them to boo Jamie Benn, right? And you should absolutely. He took a big hit at one of your own players. But they booed Duchesne first before they booed Jamie Benn, which doesn't really make any sense to me. I understand Duchesne's background and everything like that with, him wanting out of Colorado, but that trade that Colorado made when they sent Duchesne off to Ottawa is the reason why they have Cale Makar and some of their other big name players and why they've won 2 cups. And it's just like
he also hasn't played there for 7 seasons.
Yes, I'm like, come on,
dude.
Okay, well, anyway, I thought that was interesting. I thought that was funny. I want to go back to this comment by James Thomas over here. It was a really good comment. Does it feel a little like a throwback to the dead puck away game style? Okay. No, yes. But it's not the same in the fact that
you glitched out there for a little bit. Backtrack.
Okay. Anyway, James said, does it feel a little like a throwback to the dead puck away game? Get up early and park the bus. I don't think so, but I did I glitch out
it's still
again?
Happening a little bit, but I get what you're saying. It doesn't feel like that, but I think a big part of it is because the Stars have played like this on the road for the last 2 months. I mean, this is what they do. They go in, they get the lead early, and they stifle the neutral zone. They make sure nothing can happen through there. It's I feel like there were still a lot of big rush chances as the Stars especially stepped up on a bunch of 3-on-2s. And that's where they got their game winning goal was on a 3-on-2. It's just that the defense from the Stars when they play on the road is just, it's like playing a completely different team. We still lost Ryan. I am going to wait for him to come back because I don't have any of the permission. So, are you back yet, Ryan?
Yes. Man, this has been the worst my internet has been in a long time. You're welcome. Okay. Anyways, I'm sorry, guys. Anyways, so moving off of that, there's a couple more things that I did want to talk about. We obviously got to get into the offensive side of the puck here tonight, and the fact that Tyler Seguin and Logan Stankoven both get 2-goal games here tonight. First is Seguin. He that goal he had was absolutely beautiful. Great pass by Evgeny Dodonov, who has quietly been one of the Stars' best players in this series, I would argue. And then Logan Stankoven, he gets rid of a 21-game goalless drought, that goes all the way back into the regular season. So that's good to see him do it. And he does it in fantastic style, and the fact that he gets a 2-goal game going here tonight. So, James, talk about either one of those two players or both. Let me know your thoughts on that. How did you think of their games tonight?
Yeah, I mean, Sagan should have gotten a haircut earlier, man. He has 3 goals since his haircut, and it's just been a constant role for this team. It always someone else stepping up. Johnston gets kind of shut down a little bit. They're focusing on him a little bit more, and what happens? Stankoven comes up, gets 2. Sagan comes up and gets 2. It's also such a crazy luxury to call Tyler Seguin a part of your depth when he's making like $9.5 million on the cap or something stupid like that. But he really is. It's a depth piece. And it's even nicer from Stankoven because that's someone who we thought might play to start the year. And after seeing him now, probably could have and played the whole season, but comes in late in the season, acts as a trade line pickup essentially, and just was good offensively off the bat. And then his defense really is what it is. He just great defensively for someone who just came into the league. That's a rarity. And it's weird that we can say that about 2 of our youngest players right now, both Johnston and Stankoven. They both can put the puck in the net, but their biggest traits for me is their defense. They're just so good.
Well, and honestly, that's what's kept Stankoven in the lineup. And that's one of the things they talked about in his interview that we just watched right before we started the episode here tonight, James. And the fact that, yeah, he exploded offensively. And we all look at that game that him and Johnston had against the San Jose Sharks, where they were down 4-0 or 5-1 or whatever it was. And they came back and won the game 7-6 in overtime. And we hadn't really seen much of that. But the thing that we had never really talked about with him is, oh, he needs to get sent back down. Oh, he's not fulfilling his duties. Oh, he's had a terrible game. That's not anything that we've talked about. Yeah, we've kind of been quiet about him just because he hasn't been that offensive flair that we kind of expect him to be. And eventually he will be. But the thing is with all the other guys that the Stars have in the lineup, he doesn't necessarily need to be every single game. So the thing that has kept him,
it's something that all the Stars have talked about. I mean, it's that none of them are worried about scoring because there's like 9 forwards who can all score like 20 or more goals in a season with limited ice too. I mean, you talk about McKinnon, Makar. Okay, they're playing twice as much. They're getting twice as much ice time as all 9 of our forwards in the regular season. Like, yes, they're crazy. They're still better than all of them. But if a lot of our players who got more ice time, their points totals would be much higher. And that, I think that is why so many of them are just not worried about scoring, because someone's going to do it. It's just a matter of who, that each and every night, who's going to step up and do it. It's kind of strange because we used to talk about that with like depth. Okay, who's going to step up and score? Our first line scoring every single night. Who's going to step up and score? We're asking the same question in a completely different way now.
When you look at the time on ice, James, it's just ridiculous. Okay, so for those of you, obviously this has been a talking point, so we know this is the case, but it is ridiculous. Okay, Rantanen, James, have you seen it?
Not
or no?
exactly, but I know it's
Okay.
going to be like, I'm going to guess 23 on Rantanen.
You would be wrong. 25 minutes and 1 second. Arturi Lehkonen. Take a guess on Arturi Lehkonen.
1950.
24:03.
Oh,
Nathan
he's way
McKinnon.
higher. Nathan McKinnon probably has like 27 or 28.
23 point or
That's so weird.
23:55. Okay.
Doesn't make any sense.
Val Nichushkin.
I'm gonna guess he's in that 24 area as well.
1955. So just like, and when you look at the difference in the Stars forwards, okay, so let's take a look at this. All right, so who's our top players? All right, right now it's Johnston, right? So let's start with Johnston. Johnston, what's his time on ice?
1809.
21:45.
Oh, that's actually a lot for him.
Right. Okay. Let's see.
Penalty kill would do that for you, though.
Exactly. Here's the crazy thing. Nobody else has over 16 minutes, and nobody else has under 10 minutes.
That's
everybody else, when it comes to the forwards, I should say, to the forwards, everybody was between 10 minutes and 16 minutes. So
Steele actually sitting there with 1548 has the second most among forwards.
Right, exactly. So, and a lot
that's
of that,
our fourth line center.
Well, that's attributed to obviously to penalty killing, and he played a lot on the penalty kill tonight. And then they just roll 4 lines the entire game. But
how many teams play their fourth line center the second most out of all their forwards?
It just goes to show you how much faith that Pete DeBoer and the coaching staff have in all of their forwards. I mean, there's even if we throw Ty Dellandrea in there, Ty Dellandrea, when he gets in there, is still playing 10 to 12 minutes a night. He is. So it just goes to show you that this is offensive juggernaut with, yes, I would argue that like Rantanen and McKinnon and Makar, all 3 of those players in particular, are better than any of the Stars players that we have. Okay. But when you look at the depth between the Stars forwards and the Avalanche forwards, which one is going to win out? In game 1, obviously, it was the top guys got all the goals for the Avalanche. In the last 2 games, besides their game-winning one. In the last 2 games, we have seen that offense kind of be stifled out, and now the depth of the Dallas Stars is shining through. That is literally the difference between these 2 teams. And that was the argument between a lot of people. Which one's going to win? Superstar power or depth where it's needed?
Yeah. I mean, and we are not even talking about goaltending yet. And that's the other story that everyone said that the Stars were going to win on. And after game 1, they have. I mean, and it's not even been like close in goaltending after game 1.
Absolutely agreed. So anyways, James, I think we've pretty much hit a good number of the storylines here tonight. But there's one more I want to kind of mention, and if you have any, I'll let you kind of bring anything else up. The fourth line for the Dallas Stars is huge. They are more like a third line on a majority of teams, especially those that are not still in the playoffs. And I mean, we said that when we figured out that Steele has the second most time on ice here in the game tonight. That's ridiculous. A fourth line center who at some point last year was playing on the top line with the Minnesota Wild. And he is trusted that much to where he is expected to play that role on his team in a defensive role in the PK. And then otherwise, they don't limit his minutes when it goes back to 5-on-5. They just keep rolling it and then keep rolling it and keep rolling it. And it shows exactly right there how good this team is when it comes through to their depth there for their forwards. But especially the fourth line has been excellent.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much else to say about that. They found a way to win it out against Vegas's fourth line, and that was a big part of the first round that we didn't really talk about. Was our fourth line scoring was I mean, they scored some of the most important goals of that series. You got the Foxa series clincher. There's a Delhi off the shoulder game-winning goal there. There's a Delandria from the wall, impossible angle to tie that first period. That goal was huge, and it's the fourth line that's taking probably some of the most important goals.
I think it was actually Dodonov who had that goal from the crazy angle.
Sorry.
But regardless, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
He was on the fourth line
when it happened.
When it happened.
So, and it just goes to show you that one of the things I complained about for a year and a half, about 3 years ago, was the fact, and I truly believed this, that the difference between our team at that point and other teams who were Stanley Cup contenders was that third line. That third line was so key for the Tampa Bay Lightning when you had Barclay Goodrow, you had Blake Coleman, and you had Yanni Gourde. That was one of the best third lines, and they were so key in those 2 runs for the Lightning. Now we're seeing it for the Dallas Stars on their third line, obviously with Johnston, Ben, and whoever else gets on that line. Pavelski has actually been pretty decent on that line. But now we're even seeing it with the fourth line. So this is something that I argued about for a very long time, and I'm super excited to see this on a headway in this game especially. So, James, anything else that I didn't mention that you'd like to jump on?
I mean, the only other thing you can talk about is how well the Stars did at limiting their stars. I mean, the biggest thing I look at is shots on goal, and Lehkonen, who has 5 goals in the playoffs, had none, and Nichushkin, who has 8, had none. Both of them had 0 shots. Those are their 2 best goal scorers, 0 shots. And then, of course, keeping Makar off the point street, off the score sheet 2 games in a row, that's going to be huge going forward. If you can shut down Makar, the Avalanche team is in big trouble, man.
Okay, let's end it with biggest winner, biggest loser. Who you got tonight?
Biggest winner, I'm going to give to Otter because honestly, he deserves it. The first period was huge. I really thought that's where we were going to lose the game, was in the first period, especially with all the penalties we took. And he was our best penalty killer, I'd say. I mean, there was tons of good block shots, but when it broke down, Otter made the save that he had to. And that was the big thing. He made the saves he had to make. And that's why they won the game.
There's so many names running through my head, and you took mine though, James. So I'm stifling for a name, but I guess I'll go ahead and give it to. Yeah, I'm gonna give it to Stank the Tank. I'll give it to him tonight because he gets rid of that gorilla off of his back after Sagan did it, and after Hintz did it in the last game. So we're starting to see more of these guys kind of get those monkeys or gorillas or whatever, orangutans, whatever it is, off the backs of themselves and get back on the score sheet. So with that being said, it is time for Joe Pavelski to get that huge monkey off of his back.
I don't even want to talk about Pavelski.
I do, because
we'll get there when we get there. We get there. It's not a problem yet.
All right. Biggest loser. Who have you got tonight?
I'm going to give mine to Makar. I mean, this is someone who the Avalanche team looks to all the time for their offense, and getting shut down in back-to-back games it's going to be really tough. I mean, this is going to be probably the biggest storyline going into the third game, in my opinion, is Makar has no points in 2 games after absolutely lighting up the beginning of the playoffs. He just has he has nothing in the last 2 games. He's got to get back on the score sheet for the Avs to win the series.
And that's very true. Like, those top guys, if they're not productive on the score sheet, they're not going to win the game more than likely. They're just not.
And I think a really big part of that is Makar. That's their back end. That's their backstop, man.
And it's not like he's played bad either. I don't think he had a bad game. It's just the Stars were stifling against him. That's all it was. They just didn't let him, do what he normally does to teams, especially Winnipeg. We saw what he did to Winnipeg. He picked them apart like crazy. So that's good. The Stars have been able to do that, and that is a good pick for a biggest loser tonight. For me, I'm still on that whole storyline with Jamie Benn and the whole thing. So I'll give it to
How
the
did, how did
TNT
the Avs not
broadcast.
respond at all either, though? I mean, I get
No.
like my whole point of not wanting it to be a distraction, but nothing. Like I was
They
expecting
they
it
took
something.
they took a couple hits at him. So my biggest loser is the TNT broadcast for trying to build up a storyline that was of no consequence tonight.
How
So
dare
I
they
love
try
that.
to do their job?
It's like, I'm sorry. I'm not gonna get into it. I saw
Nope,
it
we're
again
not
here
talking
tonight.
about it.
Yes, we're not talking about it tonight, but I saw it again here tonight. James, anything else?
Nope.
I is tired. Just
Aw.
for y'all, by the way, I am so tired. It's ridiculous. We took our kids Six Flags. My kids here where I work on Friday. We left at 5 in the morning or 6 in the morning, and we went to San Antonio, the one in San Antonio. We were driving back, and one of our 3 buses broke down. So we were stuck on the
Oh
side of the
man.
road for an hour and a half waiting for a bus to get there, and we didn't leave until 11:30. And the bus that we got was from a different district, and this bus only went 55 miles an hour up at the top speed. So we didn't get home until, take a guess, James. Take a guess at what time we got home.
10:40.
We didn't get home till 4 o'clock in the morning when we were supposed to get home a little after midnight. So
Oh man.
I am exhausted, and I'm gonna enjoy my sleep here tonight.
Sounds
All
terrible.
right. Yep. Anyways, guys, thank you guys so much for listening along here this evening. We have 146 of you who are listening live right now. So thank you for doing so. There's more of you who are listening afterwards. Thank y'all so much for watching along with us and hearing us talk about our favorite team. Stars take a 2-1 series lead. They win the game 4-1 here in game 3. Game 4 is on Monday. We'll be back with you guys then. SarcasticRemarks.com is the website, and we look forward to seeing you again in the next episode. Alongside James, my name is Ryan. We will catch you guys on the flip side. Hope you guys have a good, fantastic morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you guys are listening. James, take us out.
Air wasn't thin enough. GG, boys.